Namaste, and welcome back to Eternal Raga. In Shloka 11, we watched Duryodhana do something that looked like strategy but was really fear made audible. He commanded his entire army, every commander at every flank, at every approach point, to protect one man, Bhishma alone. The imperative mood of that command, the double emphatic of Sarve eva hi, and the impossibility of what he was asking, protect a single pillar against an entire war, exposed the architecture of his anxiety more clearly than any confession could have. Today, the battlefield stops waiting. It answers him. Before we turn to today's shloka, if Eternal Raga has become part of your morning, follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so each new verse arrives without you having to search for it. Now, Shloka 12. The Shloka. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha Pitamah singhanadam vinadyochai shankam dadmau pratapavan. Let us hear it once more. Close your eyes if you can. Let the Sanskrit carry you there. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha Pitamah singhanadam vinadyochai shankam dadmau pratapavan. Padached, word by word. Tasya, his, genitive singular, referring to Duryodhana. The action that follows is done for Duryodhana's sake, to gladden him specifically. Sanjanayan, generating, causing, kindling. Present participle from sam plus jan, the root meaning to produce or bring into being. Bhishma is actively creating something in Duryodhana. Harsham, joy, delight, exhilaration. Accusative singular. Harsha is not quiet contentment. It is a sudden upwelling, a surge of excitement. The word has the quality of something bursting open. Kuru Vriddha, the eldest of the Kuru lineage. Kuru equals the dynasty. Vriddha equals elder, venerable, most aged. This is a title of lineage and seniority. Pitamah, the grandfather. Pita equals father. Maha equals great. Literally, the great father. An address of deep familial reverence. Bhishma is not just a commander. He is family. Singhanadam, the lion's roar. Singha equals lion. Nada equals sound, resonance. This is the war cry from the throat, primal and embodied, before any instrument is raised. Vinadya, having roared, having sounded forth, a gerund. The action is completed before the next begins. Bhishma roared first, then blew. Uchchai, loudly, with great force, high, both in volume and register. This sound was designed to carry across an entire battlefield. Shankam, the conch shell, accusative singular, the sacred instrument of war and of Vishnu, the symbol of auspicious beginning. Dadmau, he blew, past tense of the root dham, to blow. This is the only main verb in the entire shloka. Everything else describes, qualifies, contextualizes. This single word is the action. Pratapavan, the blazingly valiant one. Pratapa equals heat, brilliance, the radiance of a warrior's power. Van equals possessing. Bhishma is described as one who blazes. The grammar reveals something remarkable. Dadmau, he blew, is the only active, finite verb in this entire verse. Everything else is description, qualification, context. Vyasa gives us a full portrait of who Bhishma is before he lets him act. We see the grandfather, the eldest, the blazing one, and then, as if the portrait is complete, he acts. One verb, one moment, one conch. The translation. Then Bhishma, the eldest of the Kurus, the grandfather, the one blazing with valor, in order to gladden Duryodhana's heart, roared a lion's roar and blew his conch shell loudly and with full force. After 11 verses of strategy and anxiety, the war finally makes its first sound, and Vyasa tells us precisely why. To make Duryodhana happy, that is where we must begin our inquiry. The irreversible act and the weight of attachment. Shankaracharya's reading of this shloka focuses on the act of Dadma. He blew as a point of no return. The conch, once sounded on a battlefield, cannot be unsounded. There is no revision, no retraction, no editorial second thought. Bhishma raises the shankha and commits himself, his army, his lineage, and his dharmic standing to a war he privately knows rests on adharmic grounds. Shankaracharya presses on the phrase Tasya Sanjanayan Harsham for Duryodhana's joy and identifies it as the decisive evidence of Bhishma's bondage. The act is not performed from inner conviction. It is not performed because dharma demands it. It is performed to make someone else happy. That motivation, however loving, however human, is Raga, attachment operating as devotion. In Advaita Vedanta, the deepest form of liberation is action performed without the weight of personal attachment to outcome or to another's approval. Bhishma's action carries the heaviest possible weight. It is performed for the expressed purpose of generating joy in a specific named person. This is not karma yoga. This is karma bound to the ego of relationship. And for Shankaracharya, this binding is what will ultimately, across 18 days of war, make Bhishma's death not a tragedy, but an unwinding, a slow release from the very attachment this single verse names. Baladeva Vidyabhushana, the sacred instrument in profane service. Baladeva Vidyabhushana draws our attention to what the shankha is and what it therefore means that Bhishma blows it here. The conch shell is one of the four emblems of Vishnu, the preserver, the Lord of Dharma. In the Vishnu Purana and the Bhagavad Purana, the sound of the shankha is understood as the resonance of Om, the primordial vibration from which creation emerges. The conch is not merely a battle horn, it is a theological statement. When a warrior blows a shankha, he is invoking the sacred. He is claiming divine sanction for what follows. Baladeva notes with considerable theological weight that Bhishma blows this instrument, this emblem of Vishnu, this symbol of dharmic order, in service of Duryodhana. He invokes the sacred to initiate the profane. He calls upon the name of the preserver to commence an act of destruction that the preserver himself, appearing as Krishna on the opposing side, has come to oppose. This for Baladeva is the most pointed irony in the Kaurava camp. The greatest warrior of the Kuru dynasty, blowing the emblem of the god who has incarnated as his enemy's charioteer, does so to make a usurper's heart glad. The sacred does not bless this act, it merely witnesses it. Abhinavagupta and Ramanuja, the two faces of Bhishma's roar. Abhinavagupta, approaching through Kashmiri Shaivism's aesthetic theology, focuses not on the conch, but on what precedes it. Simhanadam Vinadya, having first roared a lion's roar. The sequence is critical. Bhishma does not pick up the conch and blow. He first roars from within himself, a full-throated, embodied, pranic cry, and then he sounds the instrument. The Simhanada is internal before it is external. It is the warrior activating his own vital force before directing it outward. Abhinavagupta sees in this the correct order of all authentic power. Inner readiness precedes outer expression. The roar from the throat comes before the call through the shell. Ramanuja adds a devotional note. Bhishma's two titles in this verse, Kuruvriddha and Pitamaha, are not decorative. Vriddha marks political authority. Pitamaha marks emotional authority. Vyasa uses both in the same breath to remind us that Bhishma is not simply a general. He is a grandfather. And on the other side of the field stand his grandchildren, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthira, whom he loves and whom he is now calling to war by name of Conch. Ramanuja reads this double title as Vyasa's lament. A man with so much authority in two registers could have prevented this war. He chose not to, and now he sounds the horn. Madhvacharya briefly notes that the word Pratapavan at the verse's end, the blazingly valiant, is Vyasa's acknowledgement of Bhishma's genuine greatness even within this compromised moment. The irony Madhva highlights, a man of blazing valor, using his brilliance not for liberation, but for loyalty. We are now deep in the commentary heart of Shloka 12. If this kind of exploration speaks to you, this slow, layered walk through the Gita, follow Eternal Raga on Spotify or Apple. Each morning's shloka is waiting. The weight of institutional loyalty. Bhishma's story is one of the most psychologically precise portraits of a very specific human situation. The good person inside the wrong institution, bound by a loyalty they gave their word to honor, executing decisions they privately know are wrong. We see this everywhere. The senior employee who implements a policy they believe is harmful because they made a vow of loyalty to the company 15 years ago. The family member who stays silent about an injustice because speaking would fracture the family. The teacher who follows a curriculum they know is not serving the students because the institution says so and they have pledged to serve the institution. These are not evil people. They are, in most cases, people of genuine integrity who made genuine commitments at an earlier point in their lives, and who now find that honoring those commitments requires violating something they value just as deeply. Bhishma's conch blow is every moment when a person of genuine goodness does something they privately grieve, because they gave their word, and their word is who they are. The Gita does not condemn Bhishma. It does something more precise. It makes him fully visible. And in doing so, it asks us to look at the Bhishmas in our own lives, including sometimes at ourselves. The sound that commits you. Dadma, he blew, is the most irreversible syllable in this shloka. It is a point of no return articulated as a single past tense verb. There are moments like this in every life. The contract signed, the words spoken in anger that cannot be unsaid, the relationship agreed to in public, the resignation letter sent, the conch blown. Before that moment, there is still optionality, still the possibility of a different path. After it, the formation is set, the field is fixed, the war has begun. What makes Bhishma's Dadmo so haunting is that he knows this. He is not naive. He is not surprised. He is an elder who has lived long enough to understand exactly what he is doing as he does it. And he does it anyway. For Duryodhana's joy, for the sake of a loyalty older than this war. Ask yourself, what have you blown that you wish you had held to your lips a little longer before sounding? And what are you holding now, trembling at the edge of commitment that deserves more time, more examination before you blow? Today's reflection. Carry this with you into your day. Let it find its moment. Is there a loyalty in my life to a person, an institution, a past version of myself that I am honoring not because it is still true, but because I once blew the conch for it and cannot imagine taking it back? What would it mean to revisit that commitment with fresh, honest eyes? Even Bhishma, on the 18th day, lying on a bed of arrows of his own choosing, found the grace to speak the truths he had held back for years. It is never too late to find the inner roar before the outer sound. Coming up next. In Sloka 13, Bhishma's one conch ignites an entire army. Suddenly, Sahasayeva, kettle drums, tabors, war horns, and cow-horned trumpets all burst into sound at once. The battlefield becomes a symphony. We will sit with the ancient Indian philosophy of nada, sacred sound, and ask, when the whole world erupts into noise, how do you locate the one frequency that is irreducibly yours? Join me for episode 13 of Eternal Raga's Bhagavad Gita series. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for bringing your full attention to words that are 3,000 years old and still, somehow, know where you live. If Eternal Raga has found its place in your mornings, share it with one person, and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is one of the most meaningful things you can offer. It is how others find their way here. Until Sloka 13, may your loyalty be always to truth. May the sound you make in the world be one you chose with clear eyes. And may your heart, in all its tending of ancient promises, find its way back to peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Eternal Raga, where wisdom meets peace.